Get strong.
Shift that mindset.
So you just mentioned something interesting, and again, I'm going to take a little bit of turn off of something that you said that you didn't mention to them that, hey, I'm going to be a representative of the LGBTQ plus population, but they automatically assume that, right?
Yes.
So, and I'm trying to make this a broader conversation right here because a lot of people watching, whether you are a woman, whether you are a black man, whether you are whatever it is, a straight white male, like you don't want that attachment to be automatic, when you show up. Like I don't automatically want to be representing all black men when I get up to speak just because I'm a black man, right?
Hmm.
White women don't want to get up to represent all white women when they speak because they happen to be a white woman. So one, how often does that happen to you? But then two, like, how do you segment that part of yourself, because it is part of you, but into, I'm just a leader and I'm a psychologist and I'm a doctor and I'm intelligent and I have experiences beyond this of who I am. But how often does that happen, and then how do you segment that?
So, um, wonderful question, very
Hmm.
timely, because it happens more often than not. So,
Hmm.
I work in an organization as a change management consultant, senior consultant, and
Hmm.
literally, it's a global company. Um, and so, I've had to do, IT implementations and all those type of things that across span the globe with
Hmm.
Fortune 500 companies. So we're not talking about just mom and pop shops. We're talking about real good $10 million contracts, right?
Yeah.
Um, so with all of that work, even in my organization, we had an all hands, I happened to just thumb through all the people that was there because I was bored at what they were talking about. So I
Yeah.
just, and I was the only black male there.
Hmm.
And I'm talking about 500 to 600 people.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah, so it was an aha moment because we pride ourselves on diversity at the organization, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying in the business unit I was in, I was
Hmm.
the only one. Now there were other black females that was represented, but I was the only black male. Then they told me there was one, but I never saw them there, and they
Yeah.
were in Norway. So I'm not really sure why they were in our count anyway. But be it to say, even in that, I joined an ERG, Employment Resource Group, so
Hmm.
for Out Front, which is the queer community.
Hmm.
And immediately I got all of these invites to sit on these panels, to sit on these boards, to travel to
Hmm.
represent what is, I would say, 2% of who David Glover is.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
because if you think about it, if we think about it,
Yeah.
if we're going to go with whether you believe it or not, let's just talk about it, right?
Hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
talking to the general populace. If you believe in born this way,
Hmm.
right? I was born black, male, and queer. If we're going to
Yeah.
make that right, but
Okay.
I worked hard for my education. I
Hmm.
decided what career path, and I made a choice of how I showed up. But none
Hmm.
of those things matter except for
Oh
what I
man.
had no control over.
Yeah. Yeah. This
So
is such a good conversation.
yeah, it automatically happens, and
Yeah.
assumptions are always attached with it. So I become the token. So
Hmm.
whenever they just had of course, Pride Month just happened, and
Hmm.
I mean, every week I was asked to be on a board, and you have to balance. What does that mean? Because
Right.
first of all,
Right.
I don't want to be just known as the ERG resource when I do
Yeah.
right. You're paying me for work. You're paying
Hmm.
me good six-figure money for work,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
known for what I was born with that no one is paying me.
Uh-huh.
But you
Oh,
have
that's
to be
good.
able to play the game and balance because at a certain time, that pours back into the value where it may be job security after a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's you
Wow.
it's a very I'm learning even in our culture, even on
Hmm.
corporate level, that you have to remember all of those things
Hmm.
and take advantage of all those things because I had a conversation with my people manager
Hmm.
this week. That's why I said it's very timely because I had a conversation about this very thing
Yeah.
this week because I said I need to start having do more uh, sessions that
Hmm.
feature other parts of me.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I did was the intersectionality. So it was about me being black and gay.
Yeah.
And I've been gay so long in all these sessions that when I saw the flyer, I had forgot I was black until I realized, oh,
Wow.
that's why I'm here, because I'm both gay and black.
Wow.
Because people will put you
Hmm.
to one set till you forget all of who you are. And as a leader, you have to be able to know that just because you do have a strength or something that
Hmm.
is featured, I am still a holistic person. And in order that I be balanced and not burnt out, even in that area that I'm shining right now,
Hmm.
I need to consider how do I balance that? How do I equate that so that you may need me for this, but understand you also get this. So I'm gonna add value to all of it,
Hmm.
using all of it, if that makes sense. And it
No,
becomes a
that
conundrum,
does.
but it comes at work. But you're graced for it. If
Yeah.
you do have the capability and you do possess it, that also means you have, and you may need support. You may need a mentor. You may need some development. You may need to go see psychologists
Hmm.
just to make sure that your mind is decluttered, that you can still think straight, that you don't lose yourself in that.
So I guarantee you this conversation is going to help a lot of people, whether, they're homosexual, identify, whatever it is. I guarantee you this conversation is going to help a lot of people. So I appreciate your transparency. And then I'm going to go into my next topic of conversation for you. And so your books, you hinted a little bit about them, but I'm sure people are curious, if you can give us just a little peek into each book, like one, what inspired you to write it,
Okay.
what's it about, and then what can people get out of that?
Okay, so the first book, which is the one that you read in the bio, is actually it arises out of my scholarly work. It's out of my
Mhm.
master's program for industrial organizational psychology. So it's really about how to be a good leader. That's my leadership book. That's the book where it
Yeah.
teaches you about emotional intelligence. It teaches you how to build and sustain, maintain a team. It's the book that I actually have a YouTube channel about as well, about
Hmm.
leadership, all things leadership. So diversity, how to make sure you're being inclusive leader, a transformational leader, servant leader, all those different type of leadership skills. How to facilitate, and navigate groups, diverse groups. How to work asynchronous, because we're all
Hmm.
still figuring out. We're all kind of fatigued off of teams, but we're all still zooming and teaming. But how do we keep everybody engaged? How do we make sure that we're maximizing the potential and pouring into our subordinates or our leaders, or even leading from behind? Maybe you're not a leader, maybe,
Hmm.
but you can still actually lead from wherever you're seated, right? So being able to aspire all those different things is in that book. So that's that book.
Like
The
it.
second
Okay.
book, Born Out of Pain, which is my memoir. That book was actually not even written to be a book. It actually, when I moved from Milwaukee to Atlanta, I didn't have any. I was here for school, so I didn't
Hmm.
have church. I didn't have family. I didn't have any distractions. It opened up a wealth of freedom, but with that freedom, opened up Pandora's box. So all those things that have been suppressed started
Hmm.
coming up. I started going on walks because I love to walk. So I would walk, and I was by a park. So I would walk around the park, come back home, and that would be therapeutic for me. Well,
Yeah.
what happened? A memory was surfaced, and so then I started having panic attacks at night.
Mm.
Well, I didn't have insurance, didn't have money to go, see therapists or anything. But the only thing I did know to do is I can write it out. I can get it out by writing. So literally, though the book is very episodic. It's not like at 4 years old, this, at 5 years old.
Yeah.
So it's not basic like that. So, but it comes in spurts as I had the memory. So all these traumas that came um, and woke me up at night, I went to my computer and I would start typing it. Well, sometimes I would only be able to type 3 or 4 words and I would just lose it crying. But I was
Hmm.
releasing it. Well, at the end of probably a year of doing that, because it was a long process, um, I had the skeleton of a book. And it was told to me, and I was told years and years ago that I was going to write that book. I cussed them out because I hated writing at that point. I'm like, I do not write. I sing, I
Yeah.
act, I draw, I do anything but write. I do not like, I speak. I love to speak. So
Yeah.
if it was words, and back then we didn't have words to, text
Yeah.
where we could do it that way. But so it really came from that. those blogs, if you will, of just getting it out, and then it narrated its own self, and then of course you come and massage it, make sure that
Mhm.
it's So that's how that book came. And to be honest, the between the two books, obviously you would know that the second book means more to me, right? Because it
Yeah,
is me
yeah.
in the book. But what I tell you, Matt, has been the most profound thing. Because, of course, I know my life, right?
Mhm.
But you never know somebody else reading your life, what they take away from it, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
they see, how resilient they believe you are just from reading your book. Now, mind you, I have had very close friends that call themselves my brother and sister, right?
Mhm.
And they were like, I had no idea.
Mm.
I could not have imagined. So it's like,
Mhm.
and actually, it answers a lot of questions, right? So I
Yeah.
had all of that. But the most unique thing is because I believe the book and those who could relate to it the easiest will be those who are like me, right?
Mhm.
But my like me is my own interpretation of who's like
I
me.
love that. That's why I like the title. That's why I like the
Yeah,
title.
I literally, the people that first started reacting and were cisgendered female heterosexual women.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, this story does not compute with you. Like, so, but of course, as a psychologist, it's like, now wait a minute, how did this happen? Tell me more. And of course, I use my silence because I want to pull out everything, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to really understand how the hell did this happen? Hopefully, that's all right. You bleep it. But how did it happen that this means that much to you versus who I know I believe it should mean to? And so after the fourth or fifth one,
Mhm.
I saw the pattern. And I saw that this is bigger than you. This is more than you. You thought you were going just for one niche and going for one specific, area, but it's bigger because we are more alike than we are different.
That is so good and so true. And that's why earlier when you were speaking, I was like, this is going to help a whole lot of people, this conversation. It doesn't matter. Like your story is about struggle, period. And so people can relate to struggle, whatever the struggle is. There could be some rich, privileged person growing up, but didn't have the love of their parents. And for them, that was a struggle, right?
Yeah,
We don't
absolutely.
think they struggled. And I guarantee there's some things in your life or in your book that you talk about that they can relate to. So again, appreciate your transparency. So, one last question before the last question.
Okay.
So, what is your passion? Like, if someone were well, I am asking you, what is your passion? It could be in life, it could be work, something you want to accomplish. But what is your passion?
My passion is simply empowerment, right?
Okay.
Um, to bring it a little bit more specific, it would be I love to see the underprivileged abound. I love giving you tools. Why I was in education first, why I love training first, why I love consulting. Because I want to pull, even as a psychologist, they tell you that your job is not to give anybody answers because we believe on the back
Hmm.
drop of us that you are already with the answer. We just need to ask those probing questions that makes it arise, that piques your interest into your own self to get that answer out. So that's empowerment. You
Hmm.
know, I use I this happened to me years ago. As I said before, I was born Pentecostal. So in one of these many revivals we had to be in, one of the revivals came to me and she laid her hands on me and she said, "You are a healer. You are a healer." Now, because of the fact that in my little mind, I was
Hmm.
7 or 8 years old. In my little mind, a healer is a person that somebody is sick. You got
Hmm.
cancer, you have diabetes, you have. I'm going to be able to speak to that or pray or whatever that is, and the manifestation of that is that you're made whole. That you know, the old school church talked about how they came in on
Yeah.
crutches and walked
Yeah.
back out,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
cancer dried up, or tumors. They went to the bathroom and passed, tumors and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So when that stuff was not happening, I couldn't understand what does she mean by healer? But
Hmm.
all along, because my frame was wrong,
Hmm.
I was a mental healer. I was one that was able to come in and nurture and heal you from traumatic oppression that sometimes you inflicted on yourself or allowed that infliction
Yeah. Yeah.
affliction. Right. So I think for me, it's the empowerment, it's the dismantling of your self deprivation and empowering you to be the best you. whether that's in at work, which is what I still do as consulting, right?
Hmm.
Or whether I do it in I Like Me, which is obviously kind of apparent, or whether I'm doing it in leadership training.
Okay. All right. Empowerment as a passion. And I have that as a passion as well, but it's a little bit different than what you explained, but I won't get into it now. We'll talk later. But now I got to
Okay.
go into my staple question I ask all the good people that come on to the My Great Aunt Edna Leadership Podcast. And the question is, Dr. David Glover, what one or two things just pisses you off as a leader in today's environment that you wish you could change?
The first thing, and I guess it kind of is, it blends right over, is inauthenticity. Why
Hmm.
are you here and you're not going to give me the real you? You
Yeah.
know, the cookie cutter. You won't. You have no. Even so now. Ooh, Trump,
Yeah, yeah,
as I'm not a supporter. I am not a fan. But
yeah.
what I do respect is his authenticity. He is going to
Mhm.
tell you what he has to say.
Yeah.
And whether you like it, don't like it, stand there, take it, leave, do what you need to do. But this is what it is. I can
Mhm.
respect you when I know you. But
Mhm.
if you're shifty, you don't know what you're, and we all have ebbs and flows. I get it, I
Yeah,
get it. And
yeah,
sometimes we
yeah.
gotta play a game and sometimes we gotta play a role. I'm not talking about that, but I am talking about someone who is jelly backed, as they used to call it. Right?
Mhm.
You don't have any, you can't do nothing. You can't stand up for nothing. Like, no, I don't get it. That probably is one and two. I don't know how we
Mhm.
split them, but that could be one and two. Um, I can leave it there because I think
That's
that's
it.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unauthenticity.
Yeah.
Fake people, the people that are playing the game don't show you the real face.
Yeah.
Just pisses you off, and I can relate to that because there are a lot of people that do that.
Mhm.
Um, I'll just leave it at that as well because I can say a lot. I can say a lot, but I'll stop right there. All right. So before we go today, if you could tell us how we can get your books, and then how can people get in contact with you, whether they need some of your counseling, they want you as a speaker, a representative, how do we get in touch with you?
Absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity. Simply all of that you can find on my website, which is drdavidnglover.com. Again, that's drdavidnglover.com. No periods, nothing fancy, just all the way through. drdavidnglover.com.
Got it. That's easy enough. All right. So everyone out there, drdavidnglover.com, go check it out. We're also going to put the information up on the screen for those of you who are watching via our YouTube channel as well. And so, Dr. Glover, I want to thank you for joining the show today. This has been a great conversation. As I
Absolutely.
mentioned, before we actually started rolling, I love people that are authentic on the show, and that's what I'm looking for. Just tell me the
Absolutely.
real deal. You did
Absolutely.
exactly that. I was intrigued by the conversation, and so I'm sure there'll be others out there. You guys make sure you reach out to them. And for the viewers out there, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have audio podcasts on all the major podcasts out there and YouTube as well. And so with that, I say thank you. May your week be excellent, and God bless.
God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of My Great Aunt Edna, featuring Dr. David N. Glover. He's a best-selling author and motivational speaker, and his information is up on the screen right now. You can reach him at www.drdavidnglover.net. And also, I'd like to remind you that my book is available called My Great Aunt Edna, The Golden Girl of Leadership, available wherever books are sold. And like and subscribe to this channel so that you can hear from other great leaders from all over the world to help you in your own leadership journey. And with that, I say thank you. May your week be excellent, and God bless.